You texted me, are you awake around 2? Like you already knew the answer. I was parked near the river downtown, watching reflections shake across the water. You said you couldn't sleep again, too much on your mind lately. Honestly, I didn't ask what you meant. Somehow I already knew. We stayed on the phone while I drove, mostly talking about random things, old apartments, songs we forgot about, friends we barely see anymore. Funny how late night conversations always get honest eventually. I think the night makes people softer somehow, less guarded. Maybe we were only meant for a moment. Maybe forever was never realistic. But I still hear your voice in certain songs and feel your absence in quiet places. We talked about life like we had endless time, like nothing would ever really change. Now it's just blue lights through the rain and memories I can't fully escape. I still drive past your neighborhood sometimes, not because I plan to, it just happens without thinking. That's the dangerous part about missing someone. Your body keeps old routines alive. I saw somebody wearing your perfume tonight, and for a second my chest dropped again. Crazy how one small thing can pull you backwards so fast. Everybody says move on, like it's clean and simple, but honestly, some nights still feel exactly the same as before. Maybe we loved each other the best we could. Maybe life just wanted different things from us. Still, there were moments with you that made everything else go quiet. And I don't think I'll forget that anytime soon. So I let another bassline fill the silence tonight. Another sleepless drive through familiar streets, trying not to replay every unfinished conversation like I always do after midnight. Maybe someday these songs won't sound like you anymore. Maybe someday the city feels smaller again, but tonight it's still your shadow somewhere beside me in the dark. You said you heard our song at a gas station last night, and suddenly couldn't finish your drive home. Funny how music does that, turns normal nights into memories again. I didn't know what to say at first, so I just asked where you were. You laughed and said, somewhere between downtown and trying to move on. Honestly, sleep that sounded exactly like us. I could hear your lighter clicking through the phone and traffic moving slowly outside your window. For a second I almost forgot how far apart things feel now. I think some people stay connected quietly long after the relationship ends. Maybe we were too young to understand each other. Maybe life moved faster than we expected, but I still find pieces of you everywhere in rainy streets and late night headlights. We used to talk like forever was guaranteed, like love alone could hold everything together. Now it's just me and this empty city, trying not to drown in old memories again. I still remember the night you came back after our fight, sitting in the kitchen pretending everything was normal. We talked until sunrise about absolutely nothing important, and somehow that became one of my favorite memories of us. I drove past your old street tonight. The lights were off in your apartment, and for the first time it actually felt over. That realization hit harder than I expected. Maybe heartbreak isn't loud like people imagine. Maybe it's just quiet moments where reality finally catches up to you. And honestly, I think tonight was one of those nights. So I keep the music louder than my thoughts tonight. Another long drive through familiar roads, trying not to reopen things that barely started healing. Maybe someday I stop looking for you in every song. Maybe someday these nights feel easier to carry, but right now it's still cold air through the windows and your memory riding beside me. You called me while I was on the highway, said you didn't know who else to talk to. I asked if something happened, you said not really, and stayed quiet for a while. I could hear the rain through your cracked window, and that same deep house mix you always played at night. Funny how certain sounds can pull you straight back into old feelings. You asked if I ever miss us. I laughed softly and changed the subject, because honestly I wouldn't even know where to begin with that answer. Now every late night drive feels heavier somehow, like the city remembers too much. Maybe we were only good at almost staying, almost fixing things, almost becoming what we wanted. But I still feel you in quiet moments, in empty streets and songs after midnight. We used to talk like forever jacket, asking if I could stay a little longer, even though we both knew I probably shouldn't. Funny how the hardest memories aren't dramatic. They're usually small moments that felt normal at the time. I stopped at that same gas station tonight, the one we always went to after long drives. Same bright lights, same terrible coffee, same feeling in my chest when I think about you too long. Everybody says memories fade eventually, but honestly, some nights they come back sharper than before. Maybe we loved each other in the wrong way, or maybe life just pulled us into different directions. Still, there were moments with you that felt safer than anywhere else. And I think part of me still chases that feeling. So I keep the music louder than my thoughts tonight. Another sleepless drive through familiar streets, trying not to replay every unfinished conversation again. Maybe someday these roads stop leading back to you. Maybe someday I stop hearing your name in every song. But tonight it's just rain on the windshield, and your memory sitting in the passenger seat. You texted me around 3 in the morning, asked if I was still awake. I looked at the clock and laughed for a second, like either of us has been sleeping lately. You said you were driving with no destination again, just trying to clear your head. Honestly, that sounded exactly like something I would do too. There was music playing softly in the background, and I could hear it turn signal every few seconds. Funny how I still notice little things about you. Even now, I think some connections stay unfinished forever, no matter how much time passes. Maybe we were never meant to last. Maybe we were just meant to happen. But I still find pieces of you everywhere, in cigarettes, smoking rainy streets after midnight. We used to talk like life would slow down for us, like we had time to figure everything out. Now it's just me and these headlights, trying not to drive too deep into the past. I still take the long way home sometimes, past your old apartment near downtown. The weird part is I don't even realize I'm doing it anymore. It's like my body remembers things automatically. I saw somebody wearing your perfume tonight, and for a second it honestly ruined my mood. That's the dangerous part about memories, they never really warn you before showing up. Everybody keeps saying you'll move on eventually, but nobody talks about how lonely healing actually feels. Maybe we expected too much from each Maybe timing mattered more than love. Still, I remember nights with you where everything else in the world felt quiet. And honestly, I haven't felt that exact peace since. So I let another bassline fill the silence tonight. Another sleepless drive through the city, trying not to reopen things that already hurt enough the first time. Maybe someday your memory feels lighter. Maybe someday these nights stop meaning so much. But right now it's still blue lights through the rain, and your voice somewhere inside my head. You asked me if I still go driving at night. I said, yeah, probably too much. You laughed like you already knew that some things about people never really change. I was parked near the river when you called, watching reflections move across the water. The city looked calm from far away, like nobody inside it was struggling with anything. Funny how appearances work. You started talking about old memories. Suddenly that rooftop downtown, late drives after parties, falling asleep in the passenger seat while music played softly. And honestly, hearing you remember those things hurt more than I expected. Because some nights I convince myself I've moved on until you call again. Maybe we were only temporary. Maybe forever was just something people say. But I still hear you in certain songs and see us in every rainy highway. We used to make plans like life would wait for us, like nothing could really fall apart. Now it's just cold air through open windows, and your name somewhere inside the dark. I stopped outside your old street tonight. Didn't even mean to end up there. There was someone else's car parked outside, and for some reason that reality hit hard. I think part of me still expected some version of us to still exist somewhere. I grabbed coffee after that, sat in silence while the rain got heavier. And honestly, I don't think I've ever felt loneliness as quietly as tonight. Maybe heartbreak isn't dramatic after a while. Maybe it just becomes part of your routine. Late drive, certain songs, memories showing up uninvited, and learning how to live beside them. So I keep the music louder than my thoughts tonight. Another sleepless drive through streets that know too much, trying not to get lost inside old conversations again. Maybe someday your voice fades into the background. Maybe someday these nights stop feeling connected to you. But right now it's just the rain, the road, and everything we never figured out. You called me while I was leaving downtown. Said you saw my car pass your street. I laughed and asked how you still recognize it. You said some things you don't forget that easily. It was music playing through your speakers, and rain hitting softly against the roof. For a second it sounded exactly like last year, back when nights still ended with you. You asked if I still stay out driving too long. I told you sometimes when I can't sleep, but honestly, it's almost every night lately. Now every highway feels connected to you somehow, even the ones we never took together. Maybe we were just bad at timing. Maybe love got lost somewhere between growing up, but I still catch pieces of you in everything. And cigarette smoking city lights after dark. We used to talk like nothing could touch us, like we had forever to figure life out. Now it's just me and these empty roads, trying not to think too loud. I still remember that night outside your apartment, you standing there in my hoodie, asking me not to leave yet, even though we spent half the night arguing already. Funny how the bad nights still became memories too. I stopped at that same diner tonight, the one we used to go to after long drives. Same waitress working the late shift, same old songs playing too quietly in the background. And for a second, I swear it felt like you were about to walk through the door again. Maybe some people don't leave your life completely, even after they stop being part of it. They stay in little things, songs, streets, late night habits. And honestly, I think that's what makes it hard sometimes. So I keep the music loud enough tonight to blur the thoughts I can't switch off. Another sleepless drive through the city, another memory showing up uninvited. Maybe someday your name feels distant. Maybe someday these nights feel lighter again. But right now it's just rain on the windshield and your voice somewhere inside my head. You asked me the other night if I ever regret the way things ended. I laughed quietly for a second, because honestly, where would I even start? I was parked outside a gas station downtown, rain falling against the windshield. Same late night playlist playing softly, same roads I always take when my head feels heavy. You said you still think about that summer sometimes, the rooftop drives, the cheap wine, the nights we stayed awake until sunrise, talking about nothing. Funny how ordinary moments become the hardest ones to forget. Now every memory feels louder after midnight, especially the good ones. Maybe we were only temporary. Maybe forever was just something we wanted to believe. But I still catch traces of you everywhere, in cold night air, in city streets. We used to hold on to each other like the world outside couldn't touch us. Now it's just me and these after fights. Same old songs playing through broken speakers. Same tired waitress working nights. And honestly, part of me still expects to see you there. I smelled your perfume on somebody earlier tonight, and for a second everything felt unfinished again. That's the problem with certain people, they leave pieces of themselves in your routine. Everybody says move forward like it's simple, but some nights memories feel brand new again. Maybe we loved each other in the wrong season of life. Maybe we expected too much from forever. Still, there were moments with you that made loneliness disappear completely. And I think part of me still misses that piece. So I keep the music louder in my thoughts tonight. Another sleepless drive through familiar streets, trying not to reopen things that barely started healing. Maybe someday your voice fades into the background. Maybe someday the nights stop feeling this heavy. But tonight it's still cold rain through the windows, and memories I can't fully let go of. You texted me around 2 in the morning, asked if I still take the highway at night. I said yeah, sometimes when I can't sleep. You replied me too almost immediately. Funny how we still do the same things, even separately. I was driving past the river when your message came in. Street lights reflecting across the water. Music low, window cracked open. Cold air filling the car. For a second I almost called you instead of texting back. I think certain people stay unfinished in your mind, no matter how much time passes. Maybe we were only meant for a moment. Maybe forever sounded better than reality. But I still hear your laugh in certain songs, and feel your absence in empty streets. We used to make plans like life would wait for us, like nothing could really pull us apart. Now it's just blue lights through the rain, and thoughts that hit hardest after dark. I still remember the night we got lost driving somewhere outside the city at 3 a.m. You were laughing at how bad my directions were, and honestly, I don't think I've laughed like that in a long time. I passed that same road tonight without even meaning to. That's the dangerous thing about memories. Sometimes your body finds them before your mind does. I saw somebody smoking your cigarettes earlier, and for a second I swear my whole chest tightened again. Everybody says eventually you stop missing people, but nobody talks about how random it feels. Maybe timing ruined us more than anything else. Maybe we met each other too early. Still, there were nights with you that felt more real than anything else in my life. And honestly, that's hard to replace. So I let another bassline drown out the silence tonight. Another long drive through a city full of reminders, trying not to replay every unfinished conversation again. Maybe someday these streets stop feeling connected to you. Maybe someday the songs sound normal again, but tonight it's still rain on the windshield and your memory sitting beside me. You called me while I was driving through downtown. Said you couldn't stay inside tonight. I asked what was wrong. You said nothing. In that voice that always means something is. I could hear rain hitting your windshield softly, and people talking somewhere outside your window. For a second it sounded exactly like those nights last year, when we still thought we'd figure everything out together. You asked if I ever missed the old version of us. I stared at the road for a while before answering, because honestly, I think about it more than I admit. Now every late night drive feels connected to you somehow, like the city memorized our history. Maybe we were never supposed to stay forever. Maybe some people only belong to certain chapters, but I still feel your absence in quiet moments and rainy streets and songs after midnight. We used to talk like love could fix anything, like life would slow down if we asked it to. Now it's just me and these headlights, trying not to replay memories of you. I still remember that night outside the convenience store. You standing there smoking in my hoodie, talking about leaving this city someday, like we actually had a plan back then. Funny how people believe things more easily when they're young. I stopped at that same place tonight, same cashier still working the late shift, same flickering lights outside, same feeling in my chest when your name crosses my mind. Everybody says time changes things, but honestly some memories feel untouched by it. Maybe we loved each other the best we knew how. Maybe that still wasn't enough. Still, there were moments with you that made the whole world feel quieter, and I haven't found that exact feeling again since. So I keep the music louder than my thoughts tonight. Another sleepless drive through streets we used to know, trying not to reopen things that already hurt enough the first time. Maybe someday your memory softens. Maybe someday the nights feel less heavy again, but tonight it's still rain on the glass, and your voice somewhere inside every song.